The MCU is packed to the brim with super geniuses, people who could make the discovery of the century in an afternoon, and some on this list have literally done that. But who among them is actually the smartest? And that's what we're here to find out today. So let's get into who the biggest brain really is. Reed Richards. When you talk about the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, every single conversation starts with the same guy, Dr. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. Reed isn't called the smartest man alive for no reason. In both the MCU and the comics, he's usually the benchmark for every other genius, and you don't really need more proof of that than Earth 828. This man revolutionized his home planet and essentially solved every global problem, and they're literally still in the 1900s. Just to give you a clear picture, Howard Stark was working on Vita rays on Earth 616 by this point in time. That's basically what helped Steve's serum work so well, by the way. It enhanced the effects.
That's 100%.
He invented unstable molecules. Ever wonder why Human Torch's clothes never burn up? They're made out of this stuff, a fabric that adapts to superhuman physics. He also built a portal to the negative zone, and let me break that down. You know how Strange needs magic to open dimensional portals? This guy built a machine for that. During Jonathan Hickman's legendary Fantastic Four run, Reed built a device called the Bridge. This machine literally allowed him to view and access infinite alternate realities. And what did he find? The Council of Reeds, which is one of the craziest things in the comics. It's basically the Council of Kangs, but with Reed. It's made up of thousands of his multiversal variants who abandoned their families just so they could dedicate their combined infinite brain power to solving the entire multiverse's problems. And the only reason he made this thing is to observe how other worlds solve their problems. Best thing about Reed is that he isn't just smart, it's that he's eternally curious. But his absolute ultimate feat of intelligence? Look at the end of the 2015 Secret Wars event. When the entire Marvel multiverse was destroyed, Reed didn't just survive it. He took the omnipotent power of the Beyonders and, alongside his son Franklin and the Molecule Man, he mathematically mapped out and physically rebuilt the entire infinite multiverse from scratch. It's not really a contest. Reed Richards is by far and away the smartest man in the multiverse, and has been for decades. Also, he has an overall IQ of 267, which is something Marvel has confirmed. Tony Stark. When you need something built now, something no one else has been able to for decades, you call Tony Stark. There's really no one on this list I'd give the second spot to. Tony's a practical genius, and he has a machine or a suit of armor for almost everything. And I really mean that literally. Remember the Iron Legion? Besides building things like repulsor technology, the Jericho missiles, the first ever Iron Man suit in a cave, and figuring out how nanotechnology works, and then successfully implementing it into a suit of armor.
Where'd that come from?
It's nanotech. You like it?
Tony also figured out time travel in a literal afternoon.
Shit!
Sure, you can say that he used Banner and Pym's research to do it, but what scientific discovery isn't built upon the work of past geniuses? And besides, Hank and Banner were sitting on that data for years, and they couldn't figure it out. But Tony, when he put his mind to it, cracked the code. He also discovered a new element based off his dad's research, which helped him cure his palladium poisoning and make his new arc reactor. Oh, yeah, the arc reactors. Potentially limitless, clean energy for the entire planet. Something he already tried doing with Avengers Tower, and succeeded at also. Tony's genius is respected by everyone, both his haters and his allies, because it's just not something you can ignore. There's a reason even Thanos knows this guy.
Stark.
You know me?
I do. You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
And he's also extremely good at breaking down tech he's never seen. He saw the Infinity Gauntlet in action and already had a response ready, the Nano Gauntlet. He's never been given an official IQ by Marvel, but I would place him just barely below Reed Richards, so at around 260, and I still think I'm undercutting him just a little. Hank Pym. People don't really mention Hank in the conversation for the smartest. He's not really the most mentally stable character, and he's definitely not very likable.
Easy, Hank.
But his resume is stacked, almost as much as Tony's, and in some ways, even more so. Let's start with his namesake, Pym particles. Tony discovered a new element, sure, but Hank discovered an entirely new subatomic particle. This is what gives the Ant-Man suit its powers.
The relationship between man and the suit is symbiotic. The suit has power. The man harnesses that power.
You have to understand, this literally redefined physics in the MCU, and if the news about it spread, I'm really sure Pym Tech would have been the next big thing, not Stark Industries. It shouldn't have been possible, and no other scientist before or after Hank managed to recreate something exactly like this. Through the Pym particles, Hank also discovered the quantum realm, an entirely microscopic universe. Besides that, he found out a way to channel those Pym particles into a suit that can utilize them perfectly, effectively making one of the world's first superhero suits way before the Mark I ever popped up in Tony's head. On top of that, he also found a way to communicate with actual ants to the point where he can get them to do anything he wants. But honestly, the biggest proof that he's among the best of the best? In the comics, Eternity himself gave that title to Hank Pym. And Eternity's logic here is pretty spot on. While Reed is always finding out wacky new things, and Tony's got a machine for everything, Hank redefines what science itself can be capable of. Scientist Supreme is no small title, and it's one he's really earned. I'd give him the same IQ as Tony, 260, and the only reason they're a bit below Reed is because Reed is dedicated to applying everything he knows on a universal scale. Rocket. So, why is Rocket above the likes of Bruce, Peter, or Shuri? Well, they're not even the smartest people on their planet. And Rocket? This raccoon has been dismantling and reassembling technology light years ahead of Earth's since he was a baby. But Rocket's intelligence isn't like Reed's, Tony's, or Hank's. He never questions why things do what they do. He just has a godly intuition about how to use them. Rocket's superpower is his mechanical instinct. He can look at a pile of garbage and understand the mechanical engineering required to turn it into a weapon. He's one of the most resourceful characters in the MCU. Remember that time he broke out of a prison with a prosthetic leg and a battery?
The muscle bound whack jobs will kill me if I don't. Here you go.
Oh, I was just kidding about the leg. I just need these two things.
What?
No, I thought it'd be funny. Was it funny? No, wait, what did he look like hopping around?
I had to transfer him 30,000 units.
But that's small-scale stuff for Rocket. Let's talk about the time he corrected the High Evolutionary. And you might think, why is that so big?
Iptonic filters.
What?
They suppress the light in the glycosylated salts. And then, boop, 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 have cysteine residual deforming. And then they make, what do you say?
Well, the High Evolutionary is a god-tier scientist. It's responsible for creating entire species, planets, and civilizations, and it has advanced knowledge stored in that brain. But despite that, the Evolutionary couldn't figure out why the evolution chamber kept failing. But Rocket did in seconds as a baby. And by the way, Rocket figuring that out really pissed him off.
What happened in there? Why? How did you know? P13.
It was too little filtration.
In the hypotonic, yes, we know. We fixed that. But how did you know? I made you! How did you know?
Imagine being outsmarted by your own science project. Rocket's brain is a goldmine of innovation, and his ability to work with technology from multiple planets in any situation is what puts him so high here. I'd give Rocket an IQ of about 230. And why the drop? Well, it's because Rocket is content just picking things apart and putting them back together, usually in the form of a gun or a bomb. But the rest of these guys try to think beyond what's possible. I think if Rocket put his smarts to proper use and focused a bit more, he'd easily be tied with the top 3. Bruce Banner. I said this before in our Every Avengers Ranked video, but Bruce is really at his best when he's not the Hulk. And it's because he's one of the smartest people on the planet and even the universe. Sure, he's below Reed and Tony, but hey, you wouldn't feel bad if you lost to Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, right? Banner is the undisputed, unparalleled authority on gamma radiation, biochemistry, and nuclear physics. Canonically, he holds 7 PhDs, which is why he's teaching quantum physics at ESU in the Brand New Day trailer. While Tony definitely deserves his spotlight for time travel, let's not forget that Banner was the first one who built a functional time machine first.
Kill it! Time travel!
Yeah, sure, he pushed Scott through time and turned him into a baby and an old man. But he also proved time travel was possible using an old van and a quantum tunnel. He was also the person S.H.I.E.L.D. went to when they wanted help finding Loki, because even though they had Tony available, there's no one who knows Gamma better than Bruce. And speaking of Tony, even he needed Banner's help to make Ultron and Vision, and I'm not really sure he could have done it without him.
You want me to help you put Jarvis into this thing?
No, of course not. I want to help you put Jarvis in this thing.
I gotta give him an IQ of around 190, and I know it seems like a sudden drop from rockets, but come on. Being a genius on Earth can only count for so much when the competition is working with intergalactic tech. Shuri. Honestly, Shuri has an extremely stacked resume. If it wasn't for the fact that Banner helped crack time travel, I'd put her above him. Granted, Shuri had been blipped out of existence, so she couldn't have really contributed, but still. She proved her expertise when she pretty expertly figured out how to remove the Mind Stone from Vision, even if she didn't get enough time to finish the job. Even in Wakanda Forever, she also recreated the heart-shaped herb, a mystical, biologically impossible plant gifted by a literal panther goddess, which was burned to ashes by Killmonger. It's kind of the same as Hank, science bordering on literal magic. Besides that, she's also been leading the Wakanda design group at a really early age. All the guys on the list so far are in their 40s, but Shorty's been creating and working on world-class technology since she was practically a teenager.
Obviously, but I've never seen it this efficient.
She's pretty much responsible for most of Wakanda's advanced tech. She's also the one who helped cure Bucky Barnes of his programming and was involved in the creation of his new vibranium arm. Overall, I'd give Shuri a solid IQ of 190 also. And a lot of these guys are relative to each other. It's like the top Tekken players in the world. No one's really that much better than the next person when you're in the top 9. Peter Parker. When you think of Peter, you usually think of web swinging, crime fighting, and being chronically broke. Peter doesn't have a lot going for him. He doesn't have high tech, a quality lab, or Tony's billions. But what he does have is extreme genius, especially for a 15-year-old. In the MCU, a 15-year-old Peter Parker synthesized a completely frictionless, high-tensile chemical adhesive, his web fluid, using scraps in a high school science lab. When Tony Stark handed him the Iron Spider suit, Peter didn't just wear it. He was able to bypass Stark's proprietary operating system. In No Way Home, you really see this side of him more. He engineered a cure for Green Goblin immediately, made an antidote for the lizard's DNA mutation, and fixed Otto's neural inhibitor chip.
It worked.
That totally worked.
He solved decades-old scientific problems from alternate realities in one afternoon, and it gets a lot crazier when you look at the comics. He's actually the founder of Parker's Particles, a kinetic energy force tied to the expansion of the universe. It's true that Reed originally discovered them, but he never shared that with anyone, and years later, Peter rediscovered them. And Reed has often openly acknowledged how intelligent Peter really is. And in 2014's Amazing Spider-Man comic, he's also the head of his very own Parker Industries, a global tech giant that works with aerospace, defense, and R&D. I'd give Pete an IQ of 185, and that's mostly because he's a bit too busy fighting crime. If he had the time Shorty, Banner, and Tony did, or even half the resources, I really think he could be way ahead. Riri Williams. This girl's probably the next Tony Stark, even if she still has a really long way to go. Let's just start with the fact that she got accepted into MIT at the age of 15. Then she started inventing her own Iron Man spin-off. I mean, it can't do everything Tony's suits could, but she built this thing in a garage, and it's infinitely better than the Mark 1.
2, 1.
Stay where you are!
The entire plot of Wakanda Forever kicks off because she built a machine that could detect the vibranium, something the CIA had been trying to do for ages. Even when she's in Wakanda, she immediately understands the technology and makes her Ironheart Mark II armor with Shuri's help. That kind of genius is extremely rare, and no one but Tony and Riri has been able to make suits like this. She also made an AI of her deceased best friend, and while it's no Jarvis or Veronica, it's still pretty impressive.
Get behind me, Satan.
Oh, you weren't supposed to see me.
Natalie, how the hell?
Relax. Miss Ronnie, I'm not a ghost. I'm just an AI coming from that little projector you got over there.
Imagine building this in your own room. I'd give her an IQ of 180, both as an inventor and as a hero. She's really early in her career, and I can easily see her being one of the smartest people on the planet later on. Stephen Strange. It's pretty easy to overlook Strange. He's no scientist, he's a doctor, and a damn good one. But compared to everyone else here, he might as well be dumb, right? Not really. Strange has an extremely abnormal talent for magic, and it's because he's ridiculously smart. He has an eidetic memory. He can read something once and absorb it completely, which is how he works with ancient tomes like the Book of Cagliostro so well. Strange's relentless appetite for studying and mastering complex sorcery earns him a spot on this list because it takes a seriously smart person to be able to do that. And there's literally no better example of this than when he viewed 14 million alternate futures in half an hour?
Be back, Yerman.
Hey, what was that?
Went forward in time to view alternate futures, to see all the possible outcomes of the coming conflict.
Strange had to mentally process, analyze, and store over 14 million outcomes, all without his brain completely short-circuiting. That's something you would expect of a supercomputer. I'd give him an overall IQ of 165, and I think that if he wanted to, he could easily step into the scientific side of things. They don't call him Dr. Strange for nothing. Well, that wraps up the smartest people in the MCU. But what's your take? Is this a fair ranking, or do you think some people got the short end of the stick? I can see an argument for all kinds of different rankings, so I'm curious to know what you guys think about who the smartest person in the MCU really is.